everybody, it's Lindsay from Hearth and Story, and I'm here with a quick flip through of our study guide for Haroun and the Sea of Stories. Okay, let's get into it. This is a novel study for our honors junior high level, which is called level 7-8. It combines 7th and 8th grade standards and really goes quite a bit beyond them as well. So this is for the older kids. One thing you're going to need to get started, of course, is a copy of the book, Haroun and the Sea of Stories by Salman Rushdie. A lot of people are surprised, did not know that Salman Rushdie had written a book for young people, but he did. So here it is. One quick tip. If you see that name on there, you're thinking, oh my goodness, let me tell my child all about what happened with him. Maybe try to hold off and not do that because there's an activity right at the front where we do an about the author. And before we do that, we look at part of the text without knowing his whole background. So, and that's kind of the whole point of it. So we're going to first look at part of it without knowing everything that went on with Salman Rushdie. And then we're going to learn all about him and then reanalyze that same passage. So if you can possibly come into the book not knowing his entire background, that would be more helpful. If you already do, it's no big deal, not a big deal at all. All right, so in here, we are going to be doing the most advanced literary analysis that we have done in Hearth and Story. This is some of the same things that you might learn in college if you were an English major. So this is really getting into it here. So I want to, caution everyone, please do not just hand this to your child and say good luck with all that. This is something where you would need to be the teacher and you need to go along through the guide with your child, read the book as well. This should not be something you hand to them and they just walk off and go do it. That's not going to work for this one. So before we read, we're going to give everyone a big primer on literary criticism. We're going through intrinsic, contextual, and subjective criticism and kind of talking about what those are. Basically, these are all the different lenses or magnifying glasses you can hold up to a particular text. So you can come into text from all different ways. And we're going to start thinking about that. So we're going through examples of each of those. And we're going to show this if you happen to be an English major, you've seen this before. You got your text in the middle, you got that formalism that we learn so much about, and we do that in the younger grades quite a bit in Hearth and Story. And then we're going to take a look at doing some historical criticism, some intertextual work, some mimetic work. And we're not going through all of this in the study guide, we're just kind of showing it as an example. We're really just looking at these major categories of contextual, intrinsic, and subjective in here. So I'm hoping parents who do not major in English will actually pick up a lot from this as well and start thinking about texts from all different kinds of angles. So there's so many options for criticism. And here we're going to practice these. So as soon as we learn them, we're practicing them on that short piece of text at the beginning. And then we go right into reading the book. And they're going to be writing a pretty significant literary analysis essay at the end. And one thing I like to do to really help students as they're going along, and you see this in our guide for the Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, we need to collect our evidence as we're reading. We don't want to have to read the book and then go all the way back and read the entire book a whole second time looking for that one quote and we can't remember what chapter it was in. That's no good. So let's try to gather these as we go along. So we really, at the beginning of chapter 1, we're helping them start to gather the evidence that they're going to need for that project. We have a pull apart in here for collecting your quotes, very similar to what you saw in our Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. So this is something you can staple and keep separate, keep it with your book, and as you're reading and you find a really cool quote that you know you're going to want to use, you can pop it in here, write down the page number, what was happening when that quote was said, what is some commentary that you want to jot down about it, so that when you go to write that essay, you're not just, left with nothing and trying to dig through the entire text again. Another thing I want to mention, these chapters are kind of lengthy. They're not really, really lengthy, but they're on the longer side. There's only 12 of them. So we have split each one up across 2 days, because if you were to read the whole chapter and do a huge activity and then also collect quotes for your essay, that would be an awful lot to do in one day. So we have everything split in half. So you're going to see the chapters called like chapter 2A and chapter 2B. They're not actually called that in the book, it's just chapter 2, but it tells you where to stop reading after, about halfway through the first one, and then you can come back and do the second half. Just wanted to mention that for scheduling purposes, because if you take a look at the book and you see that it's only 12 chapters long, you're thinking you're going to get this done in 12 days, and you're not. It's actually closer to 30. And we're just going through the book. We pause a couple times and do a couple of activities, especially this one, regarding language and storytelling. So the theme here is the power we hold, and we're talking a lot about the power of storytelling because that's what this book is all about. So we're going to talk about universalism versus essentialism. We're going to talk about straw man versions of both those. So if you have taken Hearth and Story 5th grade, you know what a straw man fallacy is. You're going to review that here, talk about that, and have a great discussion, and then even apply both of those ideas to a real life debate about storytelling. And then we're back into the book again. So we're just going through most of the chapters as we always do. I love this book. It's so much fun. And I'll just skip to the end here. Then we're getting ready to do our essay. And we're really giving them quite a bit of structure for this. This is a tough one, and we want to scaffold for the students and really help them be as successful as possible. So we're really giving them exactly what each body paragraph and the intro and the conclusion are going to need to have. And then they're going to be finding the quotes and the and paraphrasing and things that need to go into that essay. They've got a plan. You've seen this before. And a review of how to write a quote sandwich, just in case. And that's it. So then they'll come up with an essay, and that'll be the big project for this book. Of course, we always have our answer key in the back. I did want to say one more thing. We also made a separate second answer key to go with this pull-apart guide. So if your student is having a really hard time, for whatever reason, finding a quote or needing an example of what would be a good quote that I could pull for this, we have one of each from every single chapter, except for chapter 12, which is more of a wrap-up. So chapters 1 through 11, there are sample quotes, sample commentary, everything you need. So this is basically a pretty much overly filled out version of this. This is going to be a lot less than what they're actually doing, but we wanted to just give them every possible example they could possibly need. So if you're really getting stuck, this is going to be a great resource for you. And just notice that that's at the very end of the study guide. And that's about it. If you have any questions, please drop a comment or send us an email, and happy homeschooling.